Oh,
Oh,
welcome to episode 19 of the Library Tech Cast. Today we're just going to discuss a few different topics. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jeffrey Sable. I'm an instruction and reference librarian at Concordia University, Irvine. I deal a lot with all the library's technology, the integrated library system, all that good stuff. I'll throw it over to my co-host Riley. He'll go over and introduce himself.
yes. Hello. My name is Riley Childs. I am the pseudo IT administrator. Well, my semi-official title is Assistant IT Services Manager, and I'm a student, and I also manage the library and their migration to a real integrated library system, not the little card catalog that like hasn't been used for years, except in really old places. But yeah, so that's who I am. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's nice and bright in this room. It's usually pretty dark, but it's bright today. And we have a great show, and we're just gonna get off with pull up my little note doohickey here. Um, More ebook stuff. There's ebooks are one of the most, probably in my opinion, one of the most interesting spaces as you sort of move towards them, as you make the move towards them. And there's one particular consortium in the United States that is trying to move ahead, and a lot of other places are. But there was an article in the Higher Ed Chronicle, I believe, the Chronicle of Higher Education,
Right.
about how there is the consortium in the Raleigh in the Research Triangle, which is here in North Carolina, about how they want to start allowing interlibrary loans of their ebooks, which is very difficult because usually an ebook can only stay from the library because of licensing restrictions, because you don't own the ebook, you license the ebook.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, even books that they own, I think that the technology isn't there to loan them. And I mean, even this platform, which is you basically upload it to a server. It's a stripped down version, and you're allowed to read it for whatever 1 to 2 weeks.
Hmm.
I mean, the problem with that is it only works with Springer ebooks. So I mean, if you have any other platform, Adobe Digital Editions, which EBSCO uses, or Overdrive, anything like that, it doesn't even work on this, which is, another problem. So it's like even the books that they do own, I think that they're going to have a hard time figuring out a technology that allows them to comply with copyright, I guess.
Yeah, and what they're using is Occam's Reader, which is something by the University, Texas Tech, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's something that you would install on your Iliad server, and it's basically a browser reader. And like you said,
Right.
it's pretty stripped down. Um, but three other major libraries are using it. Semi, it's still like in the alpha stage, but it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But I think you're right. I think there isn't going to be a lot of selection, and the bigger publishers are going to probably shut them down when they start to try and include
Right.
other work.
Well, I mean, even Springer, the last line in the interview is the someone from Springer says we can always withdraw. If we have any, if there's any copyright issues, or we're losing publishers, or revenue is decreased any sort of way, that's the end. That's how the article concludes. We can always withdraw, and I mean that's 100% true. I
Yeah.
just I just think that publishers have built a business where they're selling ebooks for cheap. I mean, especially on the academic end. Right now, I would say, I mean, our library, the library I work at, has more ebooks than physical books. and I think that's true about most mid-sized to small libraries, where for a small amount of money you can build a library of 100,000 ebooks, and the way that's going to grow is more and more classes are going to be. Um, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know. Anyways, more and more education's going online. So those ebooks are going to be pushed even further.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, because you're starting to see, because ebooks are cheaper, even though the licensing is a pain in the butt. They are cheaper, and you're right, you can build a large library, but it's going to be interesting to see if the interlibrary loan program moves into the digital space with this sort of thing. Because all the interlibrary loan program really is it's just you're not lending books. You're lending books, but you can lend anything through that. Am I wrong, or more
Right,
or
you can lend
less?
anything. Right, yeah. I mean, some schools have restrictions where they don't want to lend audio visual or something like that, but
Hmm.
theoretically you can get pretty much anything for free on interlibrary loan. Like, we participate in libraries that are interested in lending for free, and there's at least 50 libraries, and you send out the request and they send it to you, and there's no fees exchanged or
Hmm.
charged. So I mean, fundamentally it's a great service, especially if you're looking at a book that may be only used by one patron one time in your library. There's no point in acquiring that, and this basically opens up the entire OCLC catalog to your students. I mean, especially in graduate and PhD work, you need a wide array of resources that most libraries just don't have access to.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the interlibrary loan program was probably one of the best things that happened, and it's probably one of the best things that came out of this shift to automated systems and the ability that, which did the interlibrary loan program exist before?
Well, I
Uh,
think I'm not sure when it started, but I know that OCLC was building their online records. So even if you were just still printing out cards, you could
hmm.
download a smaller version of that, and then it would still upload your holdings. So you
Okay.
theoretically could find, or theoretically they were still building their huge catalog, though maybe it wasn't as automated as you would like. But you still have to voluntarily upload your holdings.
Yeah.
Most people just use it to catalog, and once they download that cataloging record, it puts that record into OCLC system. So, I mean, I'm sure a small I would say a scaled down version, extremely scaled down, because I mean, even people that had access to that, it was a dial-up modem.
Yeah.
I think law schools were on the forefront of online databases with Westlaw and Lexis, and that was like some of I think it started on a CD-ROM where you would go and search it that way, which
Yeah.
is you know
Hmm.
pretty basic if you think about it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we're just gonna have to keep an eye on that and see if that moves forward, and if it continues to move forward, will it stay moving forward, or will it suddenly just slow
Right.
down? And
But I mean, the idea is great, though. They you upload this book. It's a stripped down version. I don't know how well it'll display on an e-reader, which may diminish
yeah, because
the
it's a web.
participation, of library patrons. But I mean, theoretically, if you get publishers to sign on, it sounds like a great idea, and it
It's a start.
solves right, and it solves the copyright question.
It's a start. I mean, unfortunately, it's a web-based thing. So unless someone develops a way um, to get around it now, one of the things that they're championing in this is the ability to copy out of the browser is disabled. Um,
Right, right.
yeah, which I
Well, I mean, well,
guess.
that's one of the main concerns is that
Yeah. Yeah.
to copy an entire physical book takes, time and theoretically money or a large copy machine or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's their main, well, that's what they say their main problem with any type of lending is to make another digital copy is pretty easy.
Yeah. Once you have it in there, it's easy to make it. But yeah, and their main concern has been that, oh well, if it's available, like if anyone can have it, they're gonna not only lose revenue, but these online readers this has to be pretty locked down. I mean, they don't look very easy to actually physically remove anything from it. So
Right.
um, yeah, I mean, it it's a start. It's getting there. We'll see where probably hear back about it in a year, and it will either be shut down or it will be thriving, and there's a whole bunch of publishers on board. Um,
Right.
but pushing forward, um, about I don't want to say the second or the third episode, because I know I will just be like completely off. Um, there we talked about a library in Texas called the Bexar County Digital Library, and what it is it's called Bibliotech. And what it is it's actually a digital library. They don't have books, they lend e-readers. They lend e-books. And we talked about this and we were like, I don't know where this is going. It looks pretty interesting, but they're starting they from this the head librarian there, Ashley Ickloff, did an interview. I don't remember what it was. It was with the Library Journal, and she says that it's been going pretty smoothly and that it's been that they've actually had problem. They've had so much. They've been overwhelmed with the demand, and it's been working out for them. But I'm trying to see. I can't remember if they only lend. I'm probably. I can't remember if they only lend. I think they lend regular ebooks because I know they circulate e-readers. I mean, Okay, no. They circulate. They circulate in copyright books. So, because I for some reason something made me think they only circulated public domain books, but I guess I am off base on that. But for those of you who don't know, it's got Macs. It's got you can borrow an iPad and use it in house. You can borrow tablets, borrow laptops, and use those all in house. And it truly is a digital library in the sense of an information space rather than a space where there are tons of books.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, it seems like, the idea was that this is a community that did not have access to the internet, and I think there was a high percentage of people that didn't even have home computers. So,
yeah,
I mean, the library really allows them to access materials that were already bought by the Texas library system, or whatever library system that, I think it's a state library, right? Or there's a state public library system in Texas. Anyways, I mean, it seems like, there's ebooks from 3M. They even have magazines from Zeno, if you're familiar with that. It's one of the big online digital magazine companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it seems like this place is more offering the tools to access the already existing infrastructure of digital objects the library already had. And it's just another way to service the community that I think that they really saw a need of internet access at the most basic point.
And there's a great infographic about the changing space of technologies, and I'll put the link to it in the show notes. But here, let me just see if I can get this to work for once.
Oh, you're gonna share your screen?
I'm gonna see if I can share my screen. Because I like this infographic. I found this and I really like this. Can you see it?
I can't. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, this just shows, and it's it. And I'll post a link to this, to the article that I found this in. It was that. But it's got all this information, and it's showing you how as budgets are cut, libraries are having to choose between providing digital services and that's at the end. But it's showing digital services and physical services, and a lot of libraries are choosing to cut book buying and rather foster community development, as you can see here. And it's all about library technologies and how they're running out of money and they're having to make that really difficult decision about books versus technologies. But yeah, let's share my screen. Okay, sorry, I just really wanted to try that.
I mean that's a universal, I think, problem that libraries are facing across. I mean, especially public libraries.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's looking at huge increased budgets, or at least that I'm aware of.
No.
I mean, I think most public libraries are happy if their budgets are maintained.
Yeah.
And things are costing more, and if you look historically, public libraries are underfunded compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, it's starting to become a very unfortunate space. And the real issue is that they're providing this fantastic service, and for the people who really need it, but the people who really need it are not necessarily the people who are out there in the community being activists for other things. I think that there needs to be a serious shift to focus on education. This focuses on the rest of our nation's political focus about education, and how honestly we're being left behind. In a lot of other countries, they have fantastic libraries. Our library system is good, and all the libraries in the United States are fantastic, but I mean, because we don't put that much of an emphasis on education in the United States as we should, and libraries are starting to feel the impact of that. Do you feel that way, Jeff, or do you have a different opinion on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just not emphasized to from the time you're brought up, culturally, and as in other countries. I mean, like, look how many people want their kid to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
That it's pretty unrealistic, and how much time they spend, taking kids to baseball practice and private hitting coaches, and that's just an analogy of the I would say the common attitude towards education in America. And I mean, I think that's changing. Over time, it's going to change even more. But it's just that's the culture of America.
Yeah, and we're just gonna, and I mean, we are at that tipping point. We're at the point where everything could go up and be fantastic, and the libraries could become the centers of community that they currently are, and they could become the centers of community that they once were, the large centers of community that they once were. Or we could see a tipping point where libraries fall by the wayside in favor of in favor of what's that word? Less tax dollars. I was trying to think of a more elegant way to say that. In favor of lower taxes in that situation, and it's going to be unfortunate if it does happen, and I don't think it is going to happen. But if we don't start to look at this more and look at this sort of situation, we're going to run into a place where everyone has all these beautiful technological gadgets, and the library has become a center for providing internet access in particular. And the people who have the money are not going to want to because they have it, and it's not providing a service to them. But we're at that tipping point, and it's a really weird time in library technologies. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
we're at that part of we're at the turning point, I guess.
We'll look back and yeah, I'm sure we'll look back and say, this went this way or went that way, but there's definitely opportunity for change in libraries and to seize that advantage of becoming a community space again. Where I think,
Mhm.
maybe 10 years ago they were sort of trying to figure out what they could be with all these new possible technologies and what the community wants. And I mean, it's all about serving the community. I mean, if
Yeah.
you serve your community and you the library and have services that everybody uses, I think the community is going to be pretty passionate about funding the library. Because I mean, my first job out of college was at a public library in Palos Verdes, which is probably one of the top five richest communities in the United States, and were extremely passionate about funding the library. And I mean, it was used by 5-year-olds all the way up until 90-year-old ladies who would come every week and get a new mystery novel. But I mean, they were passionate about funding their library, and it was well supported and well funded, and and that reflected in not only the collection but the type of people they.
Yeah, and unfortunately we're starting to see a decline in that. But
All
we're
right.
yeah. We're and but we're gonna. I think we're gonna start to see a situation where the internet is like the internet is a necessary right in our society, at least, if not others in our society. The internet is not. I take that back. Not a right, and it's something that a lot of people need, and the library has been providing that. And the libraries have been pretty good at being on their toes about adapting to those sort of changes. And I think it's not a matter of will the library adapt; it's a matter of how the library will adapt.
Oh
That's what.
yeah, I agree. Right. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think eventually, I mean, even now, if you're not computer literate, your job prospects are severely limited.
Mhm.
How's it going to be in 20, 25 years? I mean, I'm sure it's only going to get more and more important to have those skills. And if you're not exposed to using computers or the internet until you're 15 or 16, or you don't have reliable access points, which, like
Mhm.
you said, most libraries in lower income communities is that access point. I mean, you're really going to be left behind. And I mean, eventually it's going to become a public good where it's like broadcasting TV.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be supplemented by commercials or something like that. But I mean, I think a basic access point for every household is going to be the norm, in I'd say maybe 30 years.
Yeah, I think maybe even sooner than that. I think already, but I think that time frame actually, I would not be surprised if in 30 years we're talking about that and about how, oh my gosh, the FCC is doing this or that or X or Y, and we'll be looking back and saying, wow, that was pretty on top of it. But yeah, I mean, that is, I think that is spot on, and it's going to be interesting to see where computers in libraries go and their public access services and all that great, all the services that they provide for the community goes. Now, um, any last things on it before we just kind of? I have one more thing.
Yeah, let's move on to what's the last item of conversation.
Well, we have a few options. Trying to select my choices. Dang it, that wasn't. Those are old.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you were talking about earlier before we got on the air about live streaming your basketball games, and I think maybe an episode on live streaming anything,
Yeah.
because I mean libraries may be interested in live streaming, authors or certain programs they have, and I mean maybe talk about sort of how your setup is and how how much it costs, what are the
Hmm.
fees,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what are you spending on? I mean, it would be nice to see, how you did it on a limited budget using, I'm assuming mostly,
Everything that I do is actually standard def, but it's actually it costs me $50 to get started. So we can next week maybe we could sit down and I could just kind of explain exactly what I did to get started and how you could do it. But the last
right,
thing that I
right.
wanted to talk about is I did have something planned, but then I was really stupid and I looked at the date on it, and it was really old. So we're not going to do that. But what I am going to tell you about is, I don't know if I said this last week, but my library is going to be using Koa.
Oh,
Uh,
right, they're switching over.
yeah, my iOS is not going to fall by the wayside. I'm I'm going to make it so that, because the method to input books in my system is really easy for volunteers, not surprisingly. So we're going to continue to use my system, and then and then I'm going to import all the records into Koa, and it's a pain in the butt for all the old stuff because it was not in the proper format. So now I have to go through and I have to do 3,000 books and combine records manually. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that, and that's just what's going on in my world, on my neck of the woods. Oh, yes, and also, early on, I recommended Meraki for mobile device management of fleets of iPads. Don't. Do not. Very bad idea. Right now,
Why is it such a bad idea?
well, we use it to push out our apps, and it could have been user error. It could have been something. It could have been, but we swear we've tried everything. We've emailed support. We got phone support. We did the whole thing, and they could not. We even did manage profiles on our iPads, which you shouldn't. The Apple configuration tool managed the iPads, and try to do that. But that, no chagrin, it's not pushing out apps. Restrictions aren't managing. People are moving. Basically, we're having the same problem that the LA County School District did, more or less. But I do have a new solution, and I am gonna say this to you, only being on the trial, and take this with a grain of salt. There's a company called AirWatch, and I'll put their link in the show notes. It's called AirWatch. It's air-watch.com. But if you're in a school, if you're in a K-12 school, it's a godsend because they have this thing where you can import your Active Directory and your directory services, and you can have all your usernames, and they can log in if their usernames and passwords to an app, and it will basically provision the iPad so that if you're in first grade, the first grade has certain apps that they need, and they only get those apps, and it's pretty cool. And I'll let you know how it's going with that. But Meraki, if you're on a budget and you don't have any money for mobile device management, which you should, Meraki's will work for you. Not great, but will get the job done. But if you have the money, AirWatch, I think for us it was $6 per device per year, which is dirt cheap. That's
Right.
compared to like some of the other companies, which is like $25 per device per year. But I highly recommend them. I'm a little bit flip-flopping here. But you get the idea. That's just what's going on in my world. Jeff, what have you been up to? Just doing
Yeah,
stuff.
just teaching a lot. Yeah, teaching a lot. Starting a Java programming class. Trying to get everything in line for the end of the semester. Just busy at work.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I do have some very fantastic news. You're going to hear it here first, and you're not going to hear it from anyone else. You're not going to hear it anywhere else until like the second week in March. But as I believe they've done in the past years, Code for Live will be live streaming the conference this year. The details haven't been finalized, so I can't say too much about that. But they will be live streaming it, and we will be there. Well, Jeff won't. Sorry. Well, I'll be there. I will be there, and I will be covering the conference. And every night there'll be like, I'll upload a video to YouTube, and I'll do kind of exclusive content with the speakers, or answer your questions, and I'll be there. And if you would like to do a meetup, and you would like to, I don't know. Do you want to do? Is it we possibly do a Wednesday show, Jeff? Do you want to see if
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
do a
we can,
Wednesday
yeah,
show
for
that week?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday night. And we
Yeah.
can do a show Wednesday night. And if anyone that is going to Code for Lib wants to hop on and come join us, we're gonna do some content there, and I look forward to meeting you, especially if you're going to be joining the Git and Ruby on Rails pre-conferences. I'm looking forward to those. And I mean, it's going to be a great conference. If you didn't get in, make sure you get on the wait list at codeforlib.org to get it, because it's going to be awesome this year.
So you're on the streaming committee, right?
Wi-Fi
Is
and
that what
streaming, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not anything. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's exciting. But yeah, I mean, right now it's basic plan. Gonna put it stream it to YouTube like we're doing now. But I mean, next week I'll go ahead and I'll explain how I do all that and how we are gonna do all that once we get the details finalized there, so that you can use it in your libraries to maybe live stream some of your programs. But yeah, I mean, anything else before you go? Any other like just semi-news tidbits or stuff that you have coming up?
No, I'm just, working hard. Nothing really to publicize.
Well, I guess then I'm just going to kind of do my little wrap-up spiel, sort of. So, where you can find the library, I'll start out with where you can find me and Jeff, and then where we can find the Library Tech Cast. You can find me, I'm at Rowdy Children on Twitter. You can find me, I blog all the time at RileyChilds.net. And I'm about to start a sort of podcast car sort of deal where I talk about random stuff in the car and post it to iTunes. And you can find that again at RileyChilds.net. And I'm on Twitter at RowdyChildren. I think I'm other places. Anywhere and everywhere, I'm Rowdy Children. It's, yeah, anywhere and everywhere. So there we go with that. Jeff, where can people find your lovely face?
I'm I'm on Twitter at LA Library Man, and you can find me on the show weekly, hosting the show. Yeah, that's about where I hang out online.
Okay. Well, for those of you who would like to follow the Library Tech Cast on the Twitter thing, you can find us at Library Tech Cast. You can find us on our website, librarytechcast.com. YouTube.com/Library Tech Cast is our YouTube channel. You can find us on no, don't find us on Facebook. You do not want to find us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Library Tech Cast. Don't go there. But yeah, so that's our show. Join us next week, Friday or Saturday, whenever. I don't know what I have going on Friday or what Jeff going has on Friday or Saturday. It really just depends on how the week's going. Also, if you would like to be on the show, you can tweet us or you can send us an email, info@librarytechcast.com, or if you have any comments, that goes to both me and Jeff. Yeah. For the Library Tech Cast, I guess I'm Riley Childs.
I'm Jeff Sable.